So I've been waiting for a few days as more names have been coming out and entering the transfer portal so that we can talk about this all at once. And we need to talk about all of the names that the Oklahoma Sooners are set to lose because there are a lot of moving pieces to this. We need to talk about that. We'll lightly get into the coaching search and a name that I think is very intriguing. Not a surprising name, but one that I think fits very well. Before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you surprised at the onset of transfers Oklahoma has experienced? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I'm on my push to 2,000 subscribers. I'd love to have you along. And if you enjoyed this content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions, though they are small, are massive to content creators such as myself in both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all that being said, we need to run through this list of individuals who have either entered the transfer portal or reports have surfaced that they are thinking about entering the transfer portal. And this may not be a complete list. I may have missed some, so if I did, please drop them in the comments so that way there is at least an archive of the situation that's ongoing. And right now we have individuals such as Theo Wease, Jaden Hazelwood, Austin Stogner, Spencer Rattler, and a report stating maybe Marvin Mims. And that's just individuals entering the transfer portal. I have to wonder how many individuals that were eligible to come back next season will choose to go to the NFL draft. And then we haven't even talked about the recruiting situation that we're going to get into. But when I look at this list, I think the first thing that does need to be realized is just because an individual enters their name into the transfer portal does not mean they will transfer. That being said, I think it's a higher likelihood that they do because obviously there's some reason for them to even enter their name into the transfer portal. If not, they would have at least waited until the new hire. But it is not a guarantee that any of these individuals leave the Oklahoma Sooners. That being said, though, there are names on this list that really hurt. Austin Stogner is one that has got to hurt the Sooner faithful, especially when you look at everything he's been through. So that's a name in particular you really hope ultimately can stay at Oklahoma. And that's not to say that you don't hope that all of these names stay, but it's just what Austin Stogner has gone through in his time as being an Oklahoma Sooner. I know that fans would really love to keep him there, and he's a great player, so naturally you would love to keep him there. But other great players such as Theo Wease, Jaden Hazelwood, they're absolutely names you want to keep, especially when you're looking at the situation. And right now with Spencer Rattler entering his name into the transfer portal, you have Caleb Williams, who has phenomenal upside, but he just lost his quarterback coach who he committed to the university to play for. Now, I'm not saying that Caleb committed solely for Lincoln Riley. Oklahoma is a proud institution that has a proud history of winning, up there with some of the top institutions in the nation when talking about college football. So there's reasons to go to Oklahoma outside of Lincoln Riley. However, the truth is that Lincoln Riley has a perception of being amazing with quarterbacks, and so quarterbacks are going to be inclined to play for him. And now when you're in a situation where Lincoln Riley is at USC, you need to give your young quarterback all the weapons available to continue his progression because he does have an incredibly high ceiling. Sky's the limit for him. But these weapons are going to be necessary for that progression to be met. And individuals such as Theo Wease, Jaden Hazelwood are individuals you are really hoping you could retain. Now, the name that I think Oklahoma fans are going to be the most panicked about is Marvin Mims, because even though Hazelwood is a great talent, even though Theo Wease was one of my favorite receivers in his class, Marvin Mims has been sensational in his capacity as a wide receiver at the University of Oklahoma. And though he has not officially entered his name into the transfer portal at the time of me recording this video, there are reports that he's at least thinking about it. And that's a name you really, really want to hold on to, especially because he and Caleb had a bit of a rapport. That's something you want going into the offseason where they can really develop that and foster that relationship even more. So this is something we need to keep an eye on. And the last name we'll talk about, Spencer Rattler. I don't think too many people are surprised Spencer Rattler entered his name into the transfer portal. A very talented quarterback. We all understand that. But this is a name I think we could have expected to see enter the transfer portal even if Lincoln Riley had retained the job at OU and none of this chaos would have ensued. I think that the writing was on the wall. Caleb Williams looks to be the future, and so that's a name that I don't think is that surprising. It's just it becomes a bigger story and conjecture with all the other headlines going around with OU right now, and that's the only reason that one right there has been getting the attention it has gotten, and the fact that he's a really talented player and someone's going to want him out the transfer portal. But now we need to talk about the recruits and what that means, because we've seen an onset of decommitments from the Sooners, and the 23 guys hurt. The 23 guys hurt. There's no way around that, right? Because you had a phenomenal base tier 23 class. It's the 22 recruits that I worry about. It's the 22 recruits such as Raleek Brown, who now has a crystal ball to USC. It's the 22 recruits that are now thinking about going someplace else because there's uncertainty at the University of Oklahoma. Gabriel Brownlow-Dendy said that as of right now, he's staying with his commitment of OU, but he would need to rethink things as more information came out. At the end of the day, he did say, though, that no matter what, he's sticking with his top two of Oklahoma and A&M. So while he's still committed, the fact that he said that, hey, no matter what, I'm sticking with my top two of Oklahoma and A&M, that's code for I am thinking about this situation, but as of right now, I am staying completely committed to the Sooners. And that's an individual that has ties to the Sooners. But then you see Derek Moore, a fantastic defensive end from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, decommit. And that right there is one that hurts. See, that's the type of recruit that I'd be much more inclined to be worried about than the 23 cycle. Because the 23 cycle hurts, but there's still so much time to go before then relative to this 22 cycle, where those guys are going to be able to be on campus next year to be able to help you get results, which are in turn going to help you get recruits. So that's why those guys are so big. Now, when we're looking at who should Oklahoma hire, there's been names attached to this jobs. And the one that I think makes the most sense is probably Brent Venables. Given his past experience with the Sooners, he's familiar with the landscape. And because he's currently coaching in South Carolina, though Clemson isn't a SEC school, he's in the South. He has a bit of understanding about the SEC and the way you can navigate recruiting in the South. And so that's going to be big whenever Oklahoma ultimately moves to the SEC. He's a defensive-minded guy, and he recruits very well. So I think that's a hire that makes complete sense, but it is going to be something that needs to come about sooner rather than later to quell the fears of some of the recruits that you currently have in your 22 cycle. I'm not claiming to rush the process and make the wrong hire, but at the same time, it does need to be done sooner rather than later, no pun intended, because National Signing Day, or early National Signing Day, is just a few days away. So the clock is absolutely ticking. And because of all that, I'm very interested in hearing from y'all. Hop down in the comments, let me know what you're thinking about this whole situation, and until the next update, that's it. See ya.